But big breaking news coming in this evening. Actor Rhea Chakraborty's brother Shouvik Chakraborty and Sushant Singh Rajput's house manager Samuel Miranda have been arrested. The formal paperwork is currently underway. We're going to bring you all those updates. My colleague Santya Gora, Alok Singh and Mirror Now's managing editor Vinay Tiwari are going to join us to break this down, to analyze the developments. It's been a dramatic Friday this evening as the NCB began its probe early this morning, going to Rhea Chakraborty's brother Shouvik Chakraborty's residence. If I can go across to my colleague Santya. Santya, tell us the latest update. Have they been arrested? Is the paperwork still underway? What details have you gathered?
So, Aarti, Mumbai NCB has to say this, that as far as Shouvik Chakraborty and Samuel Miranda are concerned, the process of their arrest is going on right now. Some paperwork is pending, and within 2 hours, they will serve the memo or arrest memo to both of them. Mumbai NCB is saying that arrest of both the accused here is under process right now. Aarti.
Right, Santya, stay with us. We are going to go across to Alok Singh, who's been tracking the NCB developments from the national capital. Alok, what are you picking up from your sources at the NCB?
Well, Aarti, this is definitely it's a big development that Shouvik Chakraborty is now arrested because he is the co-accused in this case where the Sushant Singh Rajput death had happened. And remember, Rhea's name was also cropped up, and in which after that, during the course of investigation, Narcotics Control Bureau had found out that Shouvik Chakraborty was the part of a drug deal, and this is the drug deal which we are talking about, due to which he is arrested as of now. And not only Shouvik Chakraborty, Samuel Miranda, who is Sushant's house manager, he's also been arrested. Remember, there was the network that was operating in the Bollywood, and Shouvik Chakraborty and Samuel Miranda was the part of that network. If we talk about in the month of March, there was a deal happened, and in that deal, Shouvik was directly connected to one Jayad. Jayad was arrested just 2 days ago by the Narcotics Control Bureau. Jayad is one of the dealers, with the drug dealer who was providing the drug, which is also called the bud drug, and this is the bud. Bud is a kind of a drug which is a high quality, it's a fine quality of the marijuana, and in that way he was dealing in that chain, and that's why he was arrested. And during his interrogation, he revealed that he was in directly touch with Shouvik Chakraborty. Today, Shouvik was in fact had joined the probe when the Narcotics Control Bureau team was in fact doing the search operation at his home. And later after that, now he has been put under arrest, and he was the person that who sent Samuel Miranda to take the consignment in the month of March, and then Samuel Miranda had taken this consignment from Basit. So now both were already arrested, those drug dealers, and now these two persons who are basically from film industry, now both of them are also being arrested. So definitely it's a big development in the coming hours. Definitely there will be some new developments. You will see. Aarti, back to you.
Right. Alok, I want to go across to Mirror Now's managing editor Vinay Tiwari. Vinay, we just have details of the sections under which both Samuel Miranda and Shouvik Chakraborty have been arrested. But for our viewers joining us, just explain the process that this happens, because very interestingly, just moments before we got a confirmation that the two of them have been arrested, there was an official of the Mumbai branch of the NCB who came out and said there has been no arrest so far.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a little bit of a mystery to me on why he came out and said so. And, that's not that important either. I think what's more important is that, the police, the NCB has indeed now gone ahead and effected this arrest, or at least are in the process of effecting the arrest. Of course, there is a procedural time period that is usually there. Technically and very strictly, legally speaking, a person is arrested from the time that he or she served the arrest memo. So obviously it will happen. I mean, it will happen very soon now that every single official in the Delhi branch as well as the central branch in Bombay is saying so. But I think the important part is that, the big indicator that the NCB was moving towards a coercive move, which is in terms of an arrest or a custodial interrogation, I think came from the production of the alleged seller Basit. Because if you remember, Aarti, the first person who was produced in the court, in the remand application, there was no mention of Shouvik or even Samuel Miranda in that application. But in today's case, there was a mention of these two individuals. Now, usually when the police puts something on record in a remand application, which is part of a legal process, it does give you a sense or an indication that they believe this person has enough prima facie reasons to be accused of a specific crime, because otherwise, in a remand application, if you name somebody and then don't procedurally either go and interrogate him or arrest him, it's a bit of an oddity, because that person is part of your question list of people who are being questioned. So very obviously, we got that indicator this morning that this may happen, and predictably, that's what seems to have happened tonight. And usually, also remember, strategically, most investigative agencies tend to make these arrests later in the evening, because it allows them a little bit of an extra time to question the people at length through the night in the custody, because they really have to be produced only 24 hours from the time of the actual formal arrest, Aarti.
Well, for all of viewers just joining us, big breaking news this Friday evening. Actor Rhea Chakraborty's brother, Shouvik Chakraborty, as well as Sushant Singh's house manager, Samuel Miranda, have been arrested. I want to go across to Mayuresh for further details of the sections under which they've been arrested. Mayuresh, what further details can you tell us?
Yes, the sections which NCB has slapped, basically there are 20B, 28, 29, 27A. So if we talk about what is section 28, is a punishment for attempt to commit offense. Whoever attempt to commit any offense punishable under this chapter or to cause such offense to be committed and in such attempt does any act towards the commission of the offense shall be punishable with the punishment provided for the offense. That is section 20 and the NDPS Act. If we talk about section 20B, which is a very interesting section, which says whoever produces, manufactures, possesses, sells, purchases, transports, imports, interstate, exports interstate, or uses cannabis shall be punishable. So these are the sections right now which I just read it out. And 20B, it looks very stringent, because in this case, if you remember, when they found the charge where Shouvik was basically telling Samuel Miranda to purchase or to get the banned substance or the contrabands from Zayed or from Basit, and give him that particular X amount for that. So certainly it's a very crucial thing. The entire, since morning, Aarti, we are covering 6. It started at 6:40 and still it is going on. And now NCB is telling that they are under process, and formally they will show both of them. That is Shouvik as well as Samuel Miranda. They show them arrest in this case.
Well, Mayuresh, as you were saying, it's a day that began very early in the morning, and much like the NCB, even Santhia's day began early in the morning, tracking the process that began. Santhia, just take us and recap our viewers for what exactly happened from this morning when the NCB suddenly showed up at Rhea Chakraborty's brother's residence.
See, Aarti, so it was an action-packed day for NCB. It all started at 6:40 in the morning when two teams of Narcotics Control Bureau reached. First team reached at Shouvik Chakraborty's house, and second team reached at Samuel Miranda's house. House searches were conducted for 3 hours, and after that, first Samuel Miranda, and after him Shouvik Chakraborty was brought. Both of them were brought here at Mumbai NCB office. At that time, CBI, I beg your pardon, at that time NCB clearly mentioned that neither it was a detention nor an arrest, and it is now that NCB has said that how both the accused, their arrest is under process. Talking about the other thing which happened here, another accused, the fourth accused in the case, arrested one, Basit Parihar, was today produced in the court. Aarti.
Well, Sandhya, let's just dwell a little more into this character Basit, because he is the link between Shouvik and Miranda and this arrest. So he is actually the missing link that has been there in this case. What more can you tell us about him, and specifically his remand? Because as Vinay was just explaining a short while ago, that was a crucial development which was an indication that there would be an arrest for sure today.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, Aarti, see, yesterday when accused number 3rd, Zayed, he was produced in the court, in his remand copy, nowhere NCB mentioned that he was connected or even had any indirect link with Shouvik Chakravarti or Samuel Miranda for that matter. And this is slightly unusual because any investigating agency, while making an attempt to secure an accused custody, puts out all the available information and the possibilities, the possible links of the co-accused with the main accused or vice versa, to prepare a strong remand case and to secure the custody. But that didn't happen yesterday. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this, Aarti, because before this, NCB was providing information to media saying that how Zayed was actually indirectly linked to Shouvik, and he was the one who was also helping in providing drugs via Basit Parihar here. So that's why it was a curious case. But today, when Basit Parihar was produced in the court, his remand copy did mention Shouvik Chakravarti and Samuel Miranda, both their names and their roles. Because according to Basit Parihar's remand copy, NCB said that during the interrogation, it is revealed, and Basit has accepted, he has confessed that he was selling and purchasing marijuana, and he was actually doing this on the instructions of Shouvik Chakravarti. He was purchasing the drug from Zayed and another accused, Ibrahim, and he was on the instructions of Shouvik Chakravarti providing it to Samuel Miranda, and on many instances he was in touch with Shouvik Chakravarti for drugs, for this particular supplying of drugs. So now, as you rightly mentioned, that remand actually was an indication that these two arrests, there was a possibility that these two arrests will be made. Aarti.
Right. Vinay, as we have the details of the sections under which both Samuel Miranda and Shouvik Chakravarti have been arrested, what do you make of this section? Because this entire case, has been so much a mention of drug A, drug B, there's talk about bud, marijuana, cannabis, but the law as it states, it's going to be very difficult for the NCB to actually prosecute them, to hold their case in court.
Well, two things here, Aarti. Number one, if these are the sections, obviously these have come to us via sources. As of now, we haven't seen any paper which suggests that these are the sections. But if these are the sections, then it tells you two things very clearly. Number one, that the raids that the NCB conducted this morning did not yield a seizure of any narcotic substance. It's very obvious, because if that was the case, there would have been sections which cover actual possession and seizure. Remember, most of these sections are for conspiracy as well as in financing or indulging in illicit trade. Remember, the 27A section is the harshest of them all. It carries a rigorous imprisonment of 10 years minimum and 20 years maximum. So that's possibly the most rigorous one. So very obviously, my sense is that in the two raids that happened today at Samuel Miranda's house as well as Shouvik Chakravarti's house, they may have found other things, but they may not have necessarily found a contraband, even though we still haven't officially heard of what's the seizure like from these two locations. That's part A. Part B, Aarti, to answer your other question, look, building a case in a court of law is always a more complex process. I mean, the investigating agencies so far have done something which is comparatively easier. And I'm not saying that even questioning is easier or finding evidence is easier, but on a comparative grid, the tougher job is to start building a case in a court of law as per the provisions of the CRPC and the Indians Evidence Act, and of course the laws that have been used to prosecute somebody. So clearly, the agency's task really now begins. Also remember that this is a very curious case, and I'm using this word curious very often because of the trajectory this case has shown. It started off as an ADR investigation, or rather an ADR process by the Mumbai police, which was taking it as an accidental death, only for the Bihar police to make it an abetment to suicide case. And while the CBI and the ED are still in town trying to figure out whether there was an abetment to suicide or a financial angle, you have a Narcotics Control Bureau now going ahead and making this case all about drugs. Now, what happens to the original argument and the charge about Sushant Singh Rajput's death being an abetment to suicide? What happens to the case of financial embezzlement or other frauds that seem to have been committed by the accused in this case? We don't know. But clearly, if there was a battle going on between three agencies on who's going to pip them to the post first, the NCB seems to have affected the first arrests and not the other two agencies, which were the primary ones in this case, Aarti.
I actually want to come to you for those other probes as well. But since you were mentioning the quantity of drugs, I just want to go to Sandhya, because in that remand copy of Basit that she has, there is a mention of some quantity of marijuana that was recovered in this case. Sandhya, if you have access to that remand copy right now, can you just take us through that specific?
See, absolutely, Aarti. And talking about the quantity of the drugs here, so the remand copy says that when accused number 1, Abbas Ahmed, was arrested, at that time 46 gram of marijuana was seized from during the raids at his house, and that is not under the permissible limit. That's actually the criminal limit there. Apart from that, NCB remand further mentions that when Karan Arora, the second accused, was arrested, at that time 13 grams of ganja was actually seized from his house. And talking about Zaid, and there are 2 more accused. In fact, if we talk about Basit, that part is yet to come. But 46 gram of marijuana from Abbas Ahmed and 13 gram from Karan Arora is what NCB's remand copy mentioned. And both these amounts are not under the permissible limit. That's the criminal limit, and that's punishable. And that's exactly why these 2 accused were the first ones to be arrested. And in their remand, it was mentioned, the amount specifically was mentioned, Aarti.
Right. Now, Vinay, this entire seizure is coming at a time when there's also a parallel probe into allegations of the sandalwood industry. Remember, as you were just saying, this case is becoming less and less about Sushant Singh Rajput and more of a larger drug cartel and some sort of big scandal in the industry. And we've seen that not just in Bollywood, but also parallelly an investigation by both the CCB and the NCB in Karnataka.
Yes, and I think, look, in all the din and noise and the hullabaloo that is being made across media houses on this Sushant Singh case and how bad the Bollywood industry is and how everybody seems to be a drug addict, I think what is forgotten, and I dare say tragically forgotten, is the fact that the drugs as part of our urban lifestyle is now a reality that's been here for a while. That's not something that's happened today. It's not something that came out, to the limelight because of the Sushant Singh Rajput case. If the NCB is trying to tell us that the Bombay Zonal Office did not know that drugs are an essential part of what happens on the streets of Mumbai, not just in the film industry or not just in the glamour industry, but across the city, then I think they were living in some other world. And much the same you see is happening in Bengaluru as well. The Narcotics Control Bureau has today actually arrested an actress. Ragini Dwivedi is a fairly well-known actress in the Kannada film industry. They've arrested her. They've also arrested another person called Viren Khanna, who seems to be some kind of a party organizer in the film industry circuit. But I'm afraid the big challenge for the NCB is they are the premier agency tasked with figuring out the drug cartels in India and rooting them out. It's a lot like the DEA of the United States. But I'm sorry to say this, but there is a big difference between how a DEA approaches the drug cartels and how possibly NCB does. NCB has been very proactive in this case because it's possibly a headline case. But once the headline cases go away, and before this headline case came to light, I don't remember the last time NCB carried out a big drug seizure or a racket that involved a celebrity. And the biggest risk in this case, Aarti, is that the menace of drugs is now so widespread and so all-pervasive that it requires a more concentrated and a more broad-based action and not just an attempt to do headline cases, because this is a headline case and it must be followed up to the logical conclusion, but you cannot let it be. You cannot have 4 punters getting arrested in a case and not figure out who the masterminds of drug cartel supply is. Remember, drug cartel supply is a very organized racket and it cannot be carried out unless those cartels have involvement of somebody very high up or very senior. It's not an easy trade to do, but the ease at which it happens tells you that it has never ever been effectively tackled, Aarti.
You know, Vinay, I want to get in Neha Hebale in just a bit. She's our correspondent in Bangalore. She's been tracking this case from Karnataka, which I think is equally important. Neha, Vinay was just referring to the arrests in the case, especially another actress has been arrested in this case, which is the first. Just quickly and briefly take us through the developments that have happened in both the CCB investigation as well as that by the NCB.
Well, Aarti, that's right. The first Sandalwood actor to be arrested, Ragini Dwivedi, one who's, now of course we understand that her aide also had been arrested. Now this aide actually has several links to drug dealers, is what we understand. The police have gone on to state, which is why digital evidence also was seized from her residence this morning. Following which now she's being interrogated, and also we understand that the police will be taking custody of her shortly. Now, this is of course with regard to the case of the drugs involved in the Sandalwood case, Aarti. Now, as far as the NCB case or the Narcotics Control Bureau case is concerned, we understand that a raid that was carried out in Bengaluru just a couple of days back, nearly about 2 weeks ago, led to the arrest of 3 very important persons. 2 of them, of course, who have links, one to the Sandalwood industry again, and another to a politician's son as well. So, as far as the Karnataka's cases are concerned, how far and wide is this network really spread? That is something that the police is currently investigating.
Vinay, there is obviously this parallel case while all eyes are on Bollywood and that link. Now, so far the seizures that have come, as Santya was telling us, and even you were mentioning that it's taken the NCB this long to realize that there is the prevalence or the alleged prevalence of drugs in Bollywood, when, as you were saying, you can see it on the streets of Mumbai as well. What do you make of so far the quantity that has been seized in this case?
Well, I mean, look, there is a difference between the seizures that have been shown so far, because those seizures have come from people who the NCB directly accuses of being peddlers. Here you have a situation where there are 2 suspects, which is Rhea Chakrabarty's brother Shouvik and Samuel Miranda, who are not technically peddlers. I mean, they were people involved in drugs as per the NCB, but they were not necessarily the ones who were doing the job of supplying to everybody in the field on a commercial basis. So obviously the seizure has been shown from those who have been accused of being peddling. And that's why there's a bit of a difference. And that's why I said that it'll be very interesting and important to actually find out whether the NCB, in their 2 raids today, one at Samuel Miranda's house and the other at Shouvik Chakrabarty's house, did they actually end up seizing any drug at all or not? I doubt they would have found something, because listen, if a person knows he's being questioned by the NCB, I doubt he or she will not make efforts to just wipe away the evidence if he had any. So that was less likely that they would have found out. But remember, Aarti, cases on drug seizures are complicated ones. And I just want to refer and draw the attention of the viewers to something very similar that happened in 2017 in the Telugu film industry, for instance, where the Enforcement Directorate and the Narcotics and the State Excise Intelligence Unit, all 3 were involved. And at least 12 of the topmost personalities of the Telugu film industry, the best possible and the biggest names, were part of the list of people who were questioned by the Enforcement Directorate as well as the narcotics authorities. Now, 3.5 years later, or nearly 4 years later, I'm not sure what happened to that case. And this is typically what the trajectory that happens in headline cases, where you see a lot of hangama and tamasha over headline grabbing events that happen. And slowly, as the task of actually building a case, which requires very painstaking paperwork, painstaking evidence gathering, and following the rules prescribed under the Evidence Act, that when that process starts is when things start coming apart. And I'm just hoping that because this particular case has acquired such a high profile and has generated such immense interest in everyone around us, I hope that in this case, the agencies and the authorities actually end up doing a better job of doing that particular due diligence, because that's the only way you will be able to curb this menace. Otherwise, this will just remain one other case which grabbed headlines for 2 months and then everyone forgot about it a year from now, Aarti.
But Vinay, I think we've seen that in most high-profile cases where there's so much of attention initially and the case just peters out towards the end, or it falls flat when we come to court. But I want to take what you asked to Mayuresh about what exactly was seized, if anything at all, from Shouvik Chakrabarty's residence. Mayuresh, can you just take us to what happened in the morning? And as Vinay was just asking, what exactly they seized, if at all anything, from their houses? Okay, we'll go to Santya. We'll take that question to Santya. Santya, if I can just repeat that question, what was seized, if anything at all, from Shouvik and Miranda's house this morning? Okay, we'll try. We have some difficulty getting through to both Santya and Mayuresh. Alok, I just want to come to you now. There have been to arrest this evening. But besides that, there are also alleged drug peddlers who are part of our various parts, various dots of this entire alleged conspiracy, alleged drug cartel. Just take us through who the key players are and how they are all interconnected.
Well, Aarti, for the Narcotics Control Bureau, there are two challenges for them. One is that they have to prove this is the drug cartel in which these persons were, in fact, operating. And these two persons who are now arrested, they are the part of one of the drug cartels. There are many drug cartels that are working. And what the Vinay was telling to our viewers, that there are not one case, there are multiple cases in which celebrities are found to be consuming these drugs. And never, ever this kind of arrest had happened in which the Narcotics Control Bureau or any kind of agencies have ever tried to go more deeper into it, because they have to nab. In fact, whenever this kind of seizure happened, it is the duty of the Narcotics Control Bureau or any agencies that they have to reach to the source and destination. But never it had happened. And in this case also, this is a big question, whether Narcotics Control Bureau will be reaching to the source and destination of this kind of drug. So this is what one part is that, and the second part is because this case has, because this is the second case which is registered in the Narcotics Control Bureau, what we are getting from our sources, there is another FIR that was registered in which these two persons are arrested, because in the first FIR where the Enforcement Directorate had shared the chats that was related to Rhea Chakravarti and Shouvik Chakravarti, and there are various people, those who are associate of Rhea Chakravarti and Sushant Singh Rajput. So Narcotics Control Bureau, the second challenge is that they have to prove that these drugs which Shouvik Chakravarti was procuring was actually for himself or for Rhea Chakravarti, or Rhea Chakravarti was procuring it for Sushant Singh Rajput. So this is the chain. That is also because the first FIR which was registered, that also suggested that Sushant Singh Rajput was given this kind of drug. There is the possibility that he was given the drugs, and the family members had also alleged that Rhea Chakravarti was giving the drugs to Sushant Singh Rajput. So all these things will be in fact investigated by the Narcotics Control Bureau. So these are the two challenges, that whether Narcotics Control Bureau will be able to prove that whether there is the big chain that is working in the Bollywood industry, in which they have to identify the source and destination, and the other part is that whether these drugs which are already been procured by the brother of Rhea Chakravarti was actually for Sushant Singh Rajput, or he was consuming by himself. Back to you.
Right, that's a big challenge, to be connecting all the dots in this case. Sandhya, if you're there with us right now, I think the question that Vinay was asking, and when I was checking, I'll just check. What was seized, if at all, anything from Miranda and Shouvik Chakravarti this morning?
Talking about the seizures which were made, so Mayuresh, we were also talking about the seizures which were made. Digital evidence was that one thing. NCB focused on seizing the laptop and the phone, mobile phones. The important thing here is, Aarti, that if we talk about possession of drugs, that is that one important thing when it comes to NDPS Act, and that was not shown, at least till now. It is not mentioned by NCB. NCB is sticking to only one thing, that digital evidences, which includes seizure of laptop and mobile phones, that has been done.
And also, Aarti, just like to add one more point, what Santi has told, that they have also seized some diaries from both the houses, from Shouvik's house also and from Samuel Miranda's house. So what exactly these diaries are, what exactly has been mentioned, that they have not revealed it, as Santi was telling us about the digital evidences, but also what exactly these diaries are, they are not mentioning. So even if you remember that in the past also we have discussed while covering this case about the NDPS Act and and importance of the seizure and what exactly they recovered. Sati, if you could just briefly tell our viewers.
See, possession is that one thing which is extremely important when it comes to NDPS Act. Okay. Now, there are certain things which have to be, when the case will actually go to the court for trial, NCB's job will be to show either possession or consumption or some kind of dealing. And that's exactly why when these kind of arrests are made, Mayuresh, at that time, the focus of such agencies, specifically NCB, is to lay a trap, and they always try and get the accused red-handed so that they don't have to deal with proving the nexus of possession for that matter. Yes. So as of now, in this case, if we talk about Samuel Miranda and Shouvik Chakravarti, no possession has been shown as of now. The key word is here as of now. And apart from that, if I also talk about Basit Parihar and I also talk about Zaid, they are also, as far as these two accused are concerned, possession of drugs per se is not shown by NCB even in the remand copy. For Zaid, some foreign currency and Indian currency was seized, and according to NCB in his interrogation, Mayuresh, Zaid accepted that this was sale proceed of drugs, but no physical possession of drugs was shown as far as Samuel, Shouvik, Zaid and Basit are confirmed.
But they have, so far they have managed to get their custody till 9th September on the basis of the cash which they recovered, and Aarti on the basis of the cash and the link which basically Basit have recorded in his statement about the Samuel Miranda and about the Shouvik. Back to you, Aarti.
Right, Vinay, so clearly there are plenty of difficulties for the NCB to be proving their case. But just moving forward, Rhea Chakraborty, remember, was a starting point of all of this. She has been interrogated by the CBI. She's been under the lens of the Enforcement Directorate and the NCB as well. What happens to her?
Well, look, it depends on what they find in the investigation from here on. I just wanted to make one additional point, Aarti, that it is in the NDPS, it's not just possession that can lead to your conviction, I mean, to your prosecution. It can be, you can be prosecuted. There are enough sections in NDPS where you can be charged and prosecuted even if you physically don't possess the drugs. But it depends. It depends on the role that you play. For instance, in this case, the peddlers have been shown by the NCB of having possessed some amount or quantity of drugs, whereas they may not necessarily show that or been able to prove that in the case of the other two people who were arrested. So that's something that we will know as the investigation goes on. Also remember that now with Samuel Miranda and Shouvik being in custody, it will depend a lot on what they reveal in their custodial interrogation. Because clearly if Samuel Miranda is being accused of bringing drugs into that house where Sushant Singh Rajput lived and where also Rhea Chakraborty lived, then the accusation would possibly extend to her as well. But that's speculative. We can't really get into what they might find or establish about her. But clearly they will ask them this question, whether she could, because remember, she has gone on record to deny all of it, but obviously the NCB may find something during investigation. Having said that, Aarti, if the NCB or the ED wants to do a great job of this story, all they need to do, or of this case, all they need to do is to read the judgment which was given by a Delhi court in the Fardeen Khan case in 2018. Fardeen Khan was arrested in 2001, Aarti, while attempting to buy some quantity of drugs from a dealer outside an ATM on Juhutara Road. Now, not many people realize that the two people who, while Fardeen Khan was granted immunity, remember the law of NDPS allows you to take immunity if you are in possession of a very small quantity and you plead that you are an addict and you willingly agree to undergo a addiction, which is what he did, and that's why he was granted immunity and never prosecuted for this case. The two people who were arrested for supplying the drugs were prosecuted, and the court acquitted both of them because they said that the NCB has failed to prove its case. Now take a guess why that case was failed. That case failed because the NCB could not do something as basic as being able to produce the chemical analyst whose analysis report would have proven that the seizure was actually that of cocaine and wasn't some talcum powder or some chalk powder. They were not able to produce that chemical analyst. They were not able to prove to the court that the Indian Evidence Act was followed in terms of having carried out the formalities of having independent witnesses at the time of the seizure. They could not even produce that and the case fell. So as I said, there is a long gap between arresting somebody and actually building the case. And in this case, the NCP would do well to learn from the mistakes of the past which they've done in celebrity cases, because that was a celebrity case, and ensure that there is a more watertight case against the accused, because this kind of a menace will only get curtailed if you have decisive action, and that decisive action can be nothing else but conviction if the person is actually accused.
Yeah, Vinay, also, there is a CBI case, which is a CBI investigation that is underway. Now, that case has made no real headway. In fact, there was a lot of speculation that the CBI would make an arrest. They were the second agency to come on to this probe after the Enforcement Directorate. But the Enforcement Directorate probe and the CBI probe at this point, to the best of what information we're gathering on record, is that there is no smoking gun just yet.
Well, look, to be fair, both the CBI and ED have a slightly tougher case on their hands. Remember, abetment to suicide is not an easy case by any yardstick. I mean, it's very difficult, especially in a situation where the person who has died by suicide has not left any letter. Or has not left any suicide note where he's named somebody. So it becomes even more tough for the CBI, and obviously that is a little bit of an uphill battle. It will take a little time as well. Similarly, the ED's attempt to build a case of financial impropriety or financial wrongdoing is also a long, big maze of paperwork, and it does take time. I mean, remember, any kind of shell company investigation is a very long investigation. And unfortunately, we've not had a great record. Even in the case of proving financial crimes in this country, we've faltered more often. We've not managed as many convictions as we would ideally should have had, because there have been many, many instances of shell companies being used to reroute and funnel black money in this country. There's no doubt about that. But we've not had a great record. I mean, we've had a checkered record, a bit of a patchy record. So both the CBI and the ED have a tougher case on their hand. How much they've been able to actually gather from the questionings that have been on for almost 2 weeks now is something that we don't know. I mean, there are, of course, off the record information that comes out, but authoritatively or officially, we don't know what all the CBI and the ED has been able to manage. What we do know is that there is not much in terms of linking evidence that has so far come in. But who knows? Once you investigate and all three agencies collect notes, maybe they may find something. But yes, you're right. The NCB has moved ahead in this case and actually gone ahead and made an arrest. The CBI and the ED seems to be still figuring out a way of how to link the actual acquisition with the crime enough in the sense that it becomes prosecutable.
Vinay, I apologize for, I'm so sorry, Vinay, to interrupt you. But there is some activity happening outside that NCB office. Let's go across to Mayuresh. Mayuresh, just give us a sense of what is happening there.
Silence, please. This is the last one. As far as investigation is concerned, the decision will be taken. No decision so far, so kindly don't speculate. That's my answer.
Sir, you are confirming the arrest of Shobhik Chakraborty and Samuel Miranda.
सर रिया के खिलाफ सबूत है सर रिपब्लिक पूछ रहा है रिया गिरफ्तार हो सर रिपब्लिक पूछ रहा है रिया गिरफ्तार हो सर इधर पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ अरेस्ट तो आप देख लें
Right, Mayuresh, lots of activity, reporters just jumping on KPS Malhotra from the NCB. We had a very bad audio line there. Could you just tell us what he said?
When reporters asked him about the arrest of Shobhik Chakraborty and about arrest of Samuel Miranda, he said, yes, we are processing the papers. Also, a lot of media people ask him that will you be sending any kind of summons to Rhea Chakraborty in this case, and will she be called tomorrow? But he didn't reply to that. I'll ask my colleague Santia to join us because Santia was there. Santia, KPS Malhotra was there. Did you hear what exactly he said? Because there was a lot of commotion.
No, I couldn't hear. Actually, unfortunately, other people were taller. I couldn't see KPS Malhotra. I saw him when he was leaving. And the crowd was really huge here. Of course, media gathering was there. So I couldn't really hear. All I could hear, he said, don't speculate. But in what context, in what reference he said that, that's something I couldn't hear, Mayuresh.
Because Aarti, as he said that don't speculate, since in late evening we are seeing that there are few media houses which were running the reports about the arrest, and then NCB was telling that no, it has not been officially arrested. So certainly kind of a confusion at NCB office also, which we experienced, and we just saw that KPS Malhotra left now. We are waiting for few other officials to come down and exactly tell us that what exactly happened and on what are the grounds exactly they have slapped, or what are the sections exactly they have slapped against Shouvik Chakravarti and Samuel Miranda. Back to you, Aarti.
Well, big news coming in this evening. Samuel Miranda and Shouvik Chakrabarti, actor Riya Chakrabarti's brother, have been arrested. All the latest developments, all the latest breaking news, we're going to keep a close eye on. But for now, Santya, Mayuresh, Alok and Vinay Tiwari, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to slip into a short break right now, but plenty more on the other side. You're watching The Urban Debate with me, Aarti Subramaniam. Now, the Andhra Pradesh government, the cabinet, has decided to ban online gaming like rummy and poker on betting platforms. Now, under the new proposed law, those convicted of playing banned online gaming platforms will be awarded 6 months of imprisonment and 2 years in jail for repeated offenders. This decision has revived once again the entire debate on criminalization versus legalization of online gambling and betting, and the absence of clear legislation in this regard. So, should online gaming be banned, or is it time to regulate what is already a booming industry? To discuss this, joining us this evening, Swapnil Kothari, senior lawyer, AP Surya Prakasham, who incidentally filed a PIL in the Madras High Court against online gambling, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, Brijesh Singh, the former IG of Maharashtra, and Dr. Nitin Anand, who is the associate professor for clinical psychology at NIMHANS. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Now, before I begin this entire debate on the merits and demerits of this, Mr. Hegde, could you just explain for all our viewers the principle that underlines this entire debate, that is the game of skill versus the game of chance, because that is the underlying principle. So just for all our viewers, the legal citations of this in this matter.
See, firstly, there is the Contract Act, which says that contracts of wager are unenforceable. So therefore, if you can't really sue in India for a gambling debt. Then there are all these other state enactments which prevent gambling and define gambling as betting on a game of chance. Now, there are several games which are not necessarily entirely on chance, but require a certain degree of skill on the part of the player. In poker, the handing of the cards could be by chance, but how you bet or how you deal with those cards, when do you play with those cards, when do you fold your cards, when do you not go further, that is an entirely different skill. And especially in games like poker, rummy, it often comes down to a question of your memory and counting of the cards and balancing all the probabilities. So there definitely is an element of skill in poker. Question is, can you stake money on it? There are judgments which say that if you are basing it on the basis of your skill, then you are entitled to get a reward for your skill. But if it is totally chance-driven, then that would be bad. So in a slot machine, for instance, you just pull the slot and there's no skill involved. If those three numbers come together entirely by chance, then there is a payout. But in poker, in addition to the chance that is dealt with the hand, there is skill in playing the hand. That is the difference.
Right, Mr. Hegde, thanks so much for setting that basis about this game of skill versus game of chance. I want to go across to Mr. Surya Prakasham. Now, the guiding principles behind any objection to this is morality, financial implications, individual rights, mental well-being and health and safety, and of course the legality of it. Now, Mr. Surya Prakasham, why did you approach the Madras High Court, and what is your primary objection? Why did you seek a ban on online gambling like rummy or poker? Mr. Surya Prakasham, if we can hear me. Okay, we're having some trouble there with his audio. We'll try and fix that. But I want to take that to Mr. Nitin Anand. You've been working with Nimhans for a long time. Can you describe to us the kind of cases that you see of addiction? Is there something that has been on the rise for the past few months, and the kind of impact that it is having on the mental well-being of youngsters by and large?
Sorry about that. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, so about online gaming and the current bans which have come in. So just to highlight that online gaming currently is now a contemporary leisure time activity which is there.
Sorry about that. I didn't hear anything.
And there are prevalence rates for gaming addiction as well. So if we see, there are somewhere around 7% of individuals, adolescents and young adults get addicted to gaming. Then there's around 8 to 9% of individuals who are problematic gamers. Then there are around 4% who are engaged gamers, means who are not yet addicted. And there is a category around 75% of individuals to 80% of individuals are gamers who are not addicted, who are normal gamers. So this is a huge phenomena, and the data which in India, there is a lack of research, but whatever data is available globally from states, Europe, Norway and Australia, it indicates that currently it's a very contemporary leisure time activity. It is very crucial that what is the context in which these young adolescents and young adults take up to gaming, because there are a number of predictors. It has been found that individuals who have low self-esteem, individuals who have poor socialization skills, who have less friends, they also lead to feeling of anxiety and feeling of sadness. Plus also they have bullying experiences in during high school or middle school. These are the individuals who feel boredom and loneliness, and as a result of which they are at higher risk to take up these games and also get addicted to it, because they are actually fulfilling their psychological needs, which they would have fulfilled other ways by being as a part of a group or being with their friends, a sense of belongingness, sense of appreciation, sense of reassurance. Those things are lacking. So there could be numerous number of pathways through which they they start with gaming. But over a period of time, what happens? They start with different reasons, and over a period of time, addiction kicks in. That is behavioral addiction. So the criteria for behavioral addiction is that first is called craving. So that is a persistent desire to use online games. Next is what we call compulsivity. That is compulsive urges they get, and irresistible urges to use online games. Third is the sense of loss of control. They find it difficult to control once they actually stop the activity, stop the gaming activity once they initiate it. And fourth is the consequences. They disregard the consequences in terms of academic difficulties, social difficulties, and sleep and other appetite and other routines which they have, biological routines they have. They completely disregard.
Dr. Anand, I do, however, want to draw that distinction between online gaming and online gambling, because what Andhra Pradesh has done and what the whole discussion has been about largely has been online gambling. Now, Swapnil Kothari, you're somebody who has welcomed the decision to ban these online gaming or rather online gambling. Why do you feel that that's the need of the hour?
Aarti, the reason why I find this that it's the need of the hour is simply because if the wagering contracts under Section 30 of the Indian Contract Act And let me tell you something, Aarti, that 1872, it's an Indian Contract Act, which is 1872, it was formed by the British at that time. And still that section continues to be holding good even after even almost after a century. So the reason is that I feel that if wagering contracts are banned, what happens is with online gaming, it's not just like playing a game of chess or, something to amuse yourself or a solitaire or something. What happens is that when in these kind of games, such as poker and rummy, people tend to have a tendency to bet. And when they bet, that amounts to a wagering contract, which is not permissible in law. Now, that is the reason why I feel that it's a welcome move, and it, in some form, it tends to arrest. That's one side of the aspect that I'm talking about. The other aspect is that people could say that it's their fundamental right to play a game, and not necessarily that everybody would want to play, bet on it. Especially in terms of lockdown, I would want to play rummy with my friends. Since I cannot call them, I should be able to play with them online. So what's the problem? Now, that's an issue which a person could argue on that point, and it could go ahead and say and argue on that point that you have two issues, which is the Article 14 of the Constitution, which is equality before the law. That you could say that under this point, that why do you ban only these games? There should be other games also that could be banned, which could have a similar effect. That could be one. The other aspect could be also that, as you rightly pointed out, that it's not gambling, it's gaming. So there is a vast difference between gambling and gaming, and rummy necessarily involves skill. So it's not just a game of chance. It's definitely a lot of skill is involved in that. So, as the plethora of Supreme Court decisions say that it's the skill and chance which distinguishes, which is rather a distinguishing factor between these two aspects. So then on that footage, rather on that anvil, this could be challenged in a court of law. So the Andhra Pradesh government will have a little bit of a fight there, should anybody challenge it constitutionally. Now, having said that, to me, morally, it's a welcome move. But, when one looks at it from a larger perspective, these are all the issues are at play. And if the Andhra Pradesh's government's move is to say that, okay, let me stretch this law a little bit and let me try to arrest this form in some manner so that at least people will stop gambling, if not gaming, then, maybe they've achieved up to a certain extent. But other than that, it's very much open to discussion as such. Although I personally welcome the move because I feel that it arrests gambling up to a certain extent. It's on par with other laws and other decisions that the court has given. There are two laws that govern. One is the legislative law, and the other is the decisional law of the Supreme Court. So when these two laws are at play, they tend to support this aspect about skill and chance. But when it comes to the fact that, as one of the individuals pointed out, that, he may not like this, then, it's a different issue altogether. And he's got a right to challenge the constitutionality of it. And I would be very happy to see how the court rules over it, especially if they first have to go to the Andhra Pradesh High Court for that.
Right. Mr. Kotaria, you were saying that this is going to be legally difficult. Incidentally, the Andhra Pradesh High Court in the past has ruled that games like rummy, even when played for stakes, is outside the ambit of the Andhra Pradesh Gaming Act. We have Mr. Surya Prakasham back with us. Mr. Surya Prakasham, why did you approach the Madras High Court, and why do you feel that online gambling should be banned?
This online gambling is spreading like wildfire in the rural Tamil Nadu. And there are youngsters are getting hooked to this game, madam, and they are getting ruined, that's the problem. And of late, there is a spate of suicides in rural Tamil Nadu, and nearly 10 persons have committed suicide within the short span of 3 months. And all of them are educated, some of them are government employees, 2 people were from police, and all of them have committed suicide because they were not able to pay to their debtor, the persons to whom they have borrowed, and they brought shame to their family. That's what was some 3 weeks back, one 19-year-old boy. He is a third-year student. He committed suicide because he has spent his part-time, he was working in a photo shop, and he has spent the employer's money, and unable to answer to his employer, he has committed suicide. And their parents are in the streets because they were depending on him. And you have to believe that in most of the villages, rural villages, youngsters are playing this game because of this advancement of this internet and other things. And the entire state is going to be ruined because when you drink, only you alone drink, and it will deprive your life after 10 or 15 years. But this game within a short span, you lose everything, you lose respect, you borrow money from your parents, you borrow money from money lenders, you borrow money from your friends, and unable to pay them back, and unable to bear the torture of you commit suicide. That is what spoils the youth. That's what prompted me That's what prompted
Mr.
me to
Suryaprakash, you primarily are focusing on the social ills, the social... I completely understand. You're focusing on the social vices, the morality of the entire online gambling. Brijesh Singh, but how difficult is this to implement? Because we see that the lack of laws is one thing, or the ambiguity in the laws is one thing, but how difficult is a ban going to be to implement, and how difficult is it currently to actually enforce this ban?
So, there is something called jurisdictional arbitrage, in the sense that the geography and jurisdiction of land does not juxtapose well with the net, right? So, the state's boundaries don't end where, so the net boundaries don't end where the state's boundaries or even, the country's boundaries end. So, similarly, if you look at laws, then gambling comes under the state list. So, every state has a different kind of gambling law. So, Sikkim has something else, Andhra Pradesh is going to ban it, Sikkim is going to allow it, Goa has casinos. So, every state has very different kind of approach to gambling and also online gambling. Also that most of these gaming statutes are pretty old, and they are of 1860s vintage, and hence there is a slight gray area about their applicability to the online space. Now, even if you want to implement something, let's say that you want to stop this, then a country-specific blocking will not work, because, state laws are different, and then to block something or to bring something down, then that thing should be criminalized in that country also. Let's say the site belongs to Sweden. Now, is it illegal in Sweden or in UK? UK has a whole gambling commission. So a site may be running from UK and it may be totally legal there. So they would not honor your request to bring down that site. And on the internet, you cannot, prevent people from accessing anything. Because even if you do a country-specific blocking, then there are ways to circumvent it. People use VPNs and proxies and other kind of circumvention mechanisms. So technologically, it's very, very difficult to actually block or stop online gambling. Similarly, most of these payments are done in terms of bitcoins or in terms of digital money, which is not Indian rupees. So as I told you initially, that there is a difference in laws of the states. And apart from that, if you cross country boundaries, then, it's illegal at various places. And blocking and the seizing also is technologically very, very difficult. Aarti?
Mr. Brijesh Singh, thank you so much for that. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I do apologize. We've had a rather curtailed debate as a result of breaking news coming in this evening. But thank you all for joining us. Certainly, this is a debate that will perhaps continue for a while until there is clarity legally and in terms of legislation. That's it for tonight. Thank you all for joining us.